Okay, so we continue now. I know we have Mr. Vincent Odhiambo in the meeting, and also we are going to have Ms. Halila Mbowe, and we are going to have Mr. Zach Mbena, and we are going to also to have Mr. Adam Roland from Sahara Ventures. Let me introduce those whom I have the profiles here so that you know. And thank you so much, Mr. Vincent from Nairobi, Kenya, for being here this time, coming early for the meeting as others are joining. So we are good to start. Let me introduce to you Vincent Otieno Odhiambo. Vincent Otieno Odhiambo is a regional director for Ashoka in East Africa, based in Nairobi, Kenya, where he is responsible for growing transformative and elaborative network of leading social entrepreneurs in the region and change leaders and institutions aligned to Ashoka's vision of everyone a change maker's world. He has a cumulative work experience of 10 years in different sectors, serving in several leadership roles at national, regional, and continental levels. One of the projects he is currently leading, Ashoka East Africa, in transforming employability for social change in East Africa, TESEA, in short, in brief, working closely with a group of Ashoka fellows and other partners to support for 4 universities drawn from Tanzania and Uganda to transform teaching and learning in higher education to equip students with critical thinking and problem-solving skills for social change and impact. He's an alumni of Catholic University of Eastern Africa and the United States International University, Africa. Vincent is a firm believer in transformative partnerships and elaborative impact as critical paths towards finding sustainable solutions, effecting systemic change, and accelerating the movement towards a world where every individual and organization thinks and acts as a change maker. So that is Vincent. Thank you so much, Vincent, for joining us today for Tanzania Social Entrepreneurship Forum. We're expecting to learn more from you. And we also expected to hear, we expect to hear more about the Ashoka from your side. And I'm very happy that you're also having a project in Tanzania, which affects even Tanzania universities. So this is good that you're going to talk to us tonight. Apart from Vincent, we have Adam Roland Mbialu. Adam Roland Mbialu has a background in information technology and project management. He has over 15 years working in different sectors, including the development sector, where he served as IT or information technology specialist, and later supported the development organization in adoption and usage of technology in delivering their work. Currently, Adam serves as a chief strategist with his Sahara Ventures, a group of companies dedicated in innovation, technology, and entrepreneurship, a company in which he is part of the co-founders. Adam is also a founding member of the Tanzania Startup Association, an organization which brings together stakeholders in the Tanzania startup ecosystem with the intention of lobbying and driving the agenda for the growth of its sector. He has been involved in multiple startups and accelerators supporting them with business development and go-to-market strategies. His passion is to see more Tanzanian startups excelling in mezzanine stage and further scale their business that in turn will foster socio-economic development. So this is Adam Bial, and I know Adam Bial has been so much into growing startups in the social innovation and social entrepreneurship in Tanzania. So it's good that we are going to have him here and we are going to learn more about social entrepreneurship from his experience, from the work they are working in Sahara Ventures. Apart from these two profiles, we are going to have Zaki Mbena. I will introduce him in a nutshell because I don't have the written biography. But Zaki Mbena is a partnership. Is a director of partnership of membership for Tanzania Private Sector Foundation, and he's working a lot with entrepreneurs and enterprises at the level of SMEs, of course, even MSMEs in the country. And they have been doing a lot currently to intervene the effects of COVID-19 to the business sector in Tanzania. So we believe that Zach, through the Tanzania Private Sector Foundation perspective, he's going to share with us a lot of what could be a way forward or a solution to how social entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs can easily break through their business running in these tough times. Yeah, and he will be joining us later today, and we are going to learn more from the TPSF perspective, which is very important. But also, we are going to have Khalila Mbowe. Khalila Mbowe is the founder of Unleashed Africa, a company which is dealing with growing startups around social entrepreneurship and social innovation in the country. They are doing a lot of training around social innovation to startups, and also she has been championing so much on the growth of social entrepreneurship ecosystem and approach in the country. And Khalila Mbowe is also leading Unleashed Africa in this partnership for TUJENGE Innovation Challenge, which is the organizing partner, the organizers of this Tanzania Social Entrepreneurship Forum for today. When she comes in here, she will have a lot to share about Unleashed Africa from her side. Myself, Eric Crispin. I'm the Managing Director for TrueMaisha Training Company Limited. TrueMaisha Training Company Limited is a consulting firm which is offering empowerment for human potential through training programs. And we are also running social entrepreneurship training as well. We have been doing promoting social entrepreneurship in Tanzania for a while now, and Tanzania Social Entrepreneurship Forum is one of the events which we started some years back. I think like 4 years back, we started this event, and we stopped in between, and then we now start again. And we are happy that today we are having it virtually here. And TrueMaisha with Unleashed Africa under the supervision of Hans Siedel Foundation. We are running the project which is called the TUJENGE Innovation Challenge. This project is all about empowering young social entrepreneurs in Tanzania through capacity building, from which we give them training, mentorship, and incubation in general for a span of a year. So our project has been there for 3 years now. we expect to touch more people from Tanzania, though now we have served youth from Dar es Salaam only. Maybe next year we shall go beyond Dar es Salaam and serve more people from up country. So that is me, and I've been doing a number of training on entrepreneurship and business development to SMEs in Tanzania and in some parts of East Africa as well. So because so far up to now, I'm waiting for the panelists, especially Adam Bialu, and Adam Bialu is in there. Thank you so much, Adam, for coming. And Zach Vincent is here already, and we are waiting for Khalila and Zach, who have notified me that they are coming in soon. So I would really ask Vincent and Adam Bialu to accept that we start our discussions with you now, and when the rest joins us, then we shall continue with them as well. The program will be like, we'll be moderating, and I'll be asking questions just to let Adam, my panelists, to share your insights with the rest in the meeting. I will be asking questions. I'll be teasing you with questions so that you explain more, so that we understand what you are trying to educate us. And then later on, we shall allow everybody to ask questions. You can just click the raise hand button. Then I'll be able to see you, and I'll allow you to ask questions, and then our panelists will respond right away from here. And that's how our program is going to happen today. So let me start with Adam, because you are the second. Let me start with Adam, and then later on I'll go to Vincent. I hope, Adam, you are on there. If you can. Thank you so much, Adam. So I'll ask you the question. Thank you so much for joining us. Adam, my first question for you could be, what does doing business for good mean to you? Based on your experience accelerating young startups in Tanzania, and on social innovation and social entrepreneurship as well. What does this mean to you, doing business for good, so that entrepreneurs can understand? Karibu sana.
Asante sana, brother. Thank you so much, Eric. It's an interesting question. So yes, we have been working with a number of entrepreneurs, startups specifically. We have run several incubation and acceleration programs that have been targeting youth of Tanzania, the majority. And there is this trend, especially, that is coming on when we are preparing pitch, especially on pitch deck, that we have been emphasizing most of startup company to start with. And normally we say, we advise them to start with what problems they are trying to address on that specific innovation or business they are having, as a very first entry point of explaining or sharing about their product. I don't know if I'm listened. I'm getting a message that I might be not.
No, we can hear you very well.
Okay, that's fine. So, and again, there has been another discussion within us, like, is this the real question to start with? Is it a real question to start with? What is the problem are you trying to solve? So ultimately, there's another alternative view that I think that slide or that entry point should have started with what are the kind of opportunities that you are seeing with the innovation of the business that you are starting. And all of these facts, to me, I think they are valid. But as far as the social entrepreneurship and the beliefs in me, I feel the first one varies more. That I feel, for me, any business might first of all have an end goal of solving communal problems. But what matters more is not about just solving community problems. I feel like we need to do more than what we do on the business to provide further intentional strategies or interventions of giving back to the people that we are working with, providing impact to those people that we are working with. Could it be having a business that at the end of the day supports specific vision or serve specific problems? So to me, social entrepreneurship is for a business specifically to see what directly it can impact the community in terms of what is serving and the way the business is connecting to its people to deliver value to its people.
Wow. And you're talking about doing business and making sure we give back to the community. Are you trying to talk about corporate social responsibility? Is it the same thing you're talking about here, or is something different?
To me, it's more than corporate social responsibility. We have seen that during the COVID times, where specifically in the US, where their company people were feeling that they are not doing favor to their community by not providing assistance or intervening in solving the COVID situation. Could it be using their infrastructure to support the initiative within the organization? Could it be having a specific belief within the organization that whatever we are doing, we see how we serve our people? This concept of CSR is like, we will provide, then don't know us. If it's a price, shauri yako. But when it comes to social entrepreneurship, it tries to feel the pain of its user and struggle to look for the solution that will ease in the burden of customers. For me, that is social entrepreneurship.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much, Adam. I'll get back to you. Let me go to Vincent Odhiambo now. Vincent Odhiambo is social entrepreneurship so much, and you are looking into social entrepreneurship at the regional level of Eastern Africa. So I know you understand how social entrepreneurship is in the region level. Can you please share with us the summary of social entrepreneurship development in Eastern Africa region? Like, give us a picture of how social entrepreneurship is in the Eastern Africa region. For the benefit of our audience, you can share a little bit of what is social entrepreneurship on your side, on your perspective, and then you tell us what is exactly the situation in our region in Eastern Africa.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Eric. I think for the sake of participants and also just from what you've asked, maybe we'll structure this into two. First, can I just explain what we mean when we talk about social entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurs? You did mention this at the very beginning that, you know, Ashoka is the father or the grandfather, of social entrepreneurship. I've also seen amongst your participants here today some people who are renowned social entrepreneurs, I'd like to just point out Peter Lowe from Kenya, who leads the Social Enterprise Network, Social Enterprise Society of Kenya, is also quite a good resource person here. So I know also your intention is to make this a very interactive session. These are some of the people that I would be happy to, for you to draw into the conversation because of the immense knowledge and the experience also that they have. But so thank you so much, you and your team and all the partners supporting Tanzania Social Entrepreneurship Forum. I think this is a timely convening, and thanks to COVID-19, I would say, partly because we are able now to connect. Otherwise, if this was happening physically, I mean, in-person convening in Dar es Salaam, maybe some of the people that are here would not have made it. So it's good that you were able to flip it. I know you had planned it earlier on. So it is, like you had, my name is Vincent. I work with Ashoka for the last 5 years. And it's almost 40 years since Bill Dayton, the founder of Ashoka, got this idea that the world's most pressing problems or challenges will not be solved by the same institutions that created them. It so happens that these institutions, they only know how to make the system easier. So when you talk about institution, you talk about system, they only know how to make it easier, more efficient, more effective. They're very much at peace, let me say, with things as they are. But they do not know how to use the systems to help the people they are hurting or the people they have hurt before, or how to save the environment damaging or damaged. So this is how Bill Dayton then visualized a social entrepreneur as a person who recognizes a problem and finds a solution for it. And most importantly, they can also articulate the said solution with passion and intelligence, such that all those institutions, all the systems, that create either inequalities, injustices, can't help but take notice, and in so doing become unstuck, move away from their business as usual. And I think Adam also touched on to that aspect of social entrepreneurship. So that soon enough, what happens is that the social entrepreneur is someone who's, they're not only solving a problem in their community, but they also launch a new way of approaching a problem, so that a new system comes out of their innovation, a new way of doing things, a new way of thinking, flipping an entire value chain of a business. And we have this sort of knowledge from Ashoka Fellows, but then, so that's how Ashoka started. And this is how in the first 10 years of Ashoka, we were fully focusing on finding leading social entrepreneurs across the world. This is after Bill came across these men and women who are running ventures. They were solving for challenges in their communities. Whether at national level, regional level, continental level, but they were not doing it as a traditional charity. And also they were not running their ventures as traditional businesses. So it was more like, cross-cutting those two sectors, traditional business and charity. But the most beautiful thing about their venture is that they had also figured out some sustainability to it, some scale, So that's how then we started looking for leading social entrepreneurs, electing them as fellows. We have about 3,500 and growing leading social entrepreneurs as part of our fellowship network across the world. We're in about, and this is about 90 countries presently. So from these fellows, we learn a lot. There's just tons of knowledge that we've picked from them. And this is how we come to define, really, from a practical sense of things, what do we mean when you talk about social entrepreneur? For us as Ashoka, we look at anyone who's doing what I've said and they're thinking of systemic change, or they're already effecting system change. And just to take you through a bit of this, because I know probably part of the audience here, there are people who are self-identifying as social entrepreneurs and might be interested at some point to join this network of Ashoka Fellows. So the first thing that we see with Ashoka Fellows, and this is very important, for anyone thinking social entrepreneurship, They change systems in 5 different ways. The first way is market dynamics and value chains. So about 1/3 of Ashoka Fellows have changed market dynamics at a national level, and also in 5 different ways. Either they're increasing access to goods and services, or they're creating new markets, or they're creating value where there was no value. And I have a couple of people in mind, I could give us examples. They also generate income for the poor, and they change the flow of market information. So kind of just disrupting market, especially where middlemen are involved and the producers are not benefiting. So we see this. Then the second way that they are influencing systemic change, another very critical sort of way of looking at success as a social entrepreneur is they affect public policy, and they kind of affect changes in public policy and industry norms. So about certainly over 80% of Ashoka Fellows see working with public policy as an important part of their work. And 60% of them either train people directly to influence policy change, or they work with different players to affect policy change. In mind, I have someone like Anjogu, who is an Ashoka Fellow from Kenya, who spearheaded the ratification of Sexual Offences Act, and use a framework to comprehensively address problems of gender-based violence. So that was a policy level change as an Ashoka Fellow, as an example for that. And that is still social entrepreneurship. The third thing that they do is that they bring full inclusion to a disadvantaged group. Whether it's young people, whether it's women, whether it's people living with who are able differently, they work full time. They bring their full force to bring full inclusion to this kind of group. 55% of Ashoka Fellows do this, and they achieve this impact to fully include marginalized groups in about 10 years after they've been elected. Because the other thing that we do with the fellows once elected is that we support them to scale their innovations. The fourth thing, which really touches on a lot of narrative, a lot of discussion that has been going on between what is social enterprise and what is, you ask the question, CSR, so we see a lot of Ashoka Fellows, and this is basically social entrepreneurs, kind of moving towards a business social congruence. So 10 years post-election, 59% of them receive revenue through, they kind of create this dynamic where there is a for-profit element, there's a for-profit wing in the work. And then also we're seeing more and more of them incorporating some kind of a hybrid model that continue to blur the traditional difference between business and social sectors. But the last way that they also affect this, and I'm giving this so that then we kind of get to grasp the way we look at social entrepreneurship. They also create this supports a global culture that values change making. And you've seen, talked about change making a lot. So Ashoka's vision is everyone a change maker world. So we see a lot of these social entrepreneurs supporting that kind of culture, to grow change making and more social entrepreneurs in that various ways. So it could be either training social entrepreneurs directly, as a fellow Mario does with E4 Impact Accelerator, or it could be just creating a campaign around change making, either supporting young people to self-identify as change makers, giving them opportunities for to have their first sort of start in creating impact in their communities. So Eric, I think I would just want to maybe just stop there so that that is absorbed. And have a 1 minute. I'll come back to your question about what was that question? What are the developments that you're seeing across East Africa? I could even just give that a start right away. So one thing, I mean, from a very nascent sector, and I know in this forum there are quite a number of people who've been involved here in this sector longer than probably got to know about social entrepreneurship. But from a nascent sector, maybe 10 to 15 years ago, we're seeing tremendous growth in development. Again, growth and development sometimes, it depends with the context. It can be used interchangeably. But when you think about just to distinguish growth, then would mean when you're thinking the number of people who are now getting into the field and all that. But I feel in terms of development, one of the key things that I'm seeing is that when it comes to funding, because that is one area that is usually a challenge to many social entrepreneurs, and also just starting. When it comes to funding, there is a move away from the traditional, sort of funding models that social entrepreneurs have relied on for quite a while. So it's no longer just about foundation, philanthropy generally. I mean, we're seeing also impact investors coming in. There is a sort of an upsurge in interest in innovations in the region. I have in mind like Vilgro, which focuses on innovations around health. The other thing also that is happening within this field is kind of awareness on the need to create policy and legal framework. I don't know whether this is happening also in Tanzania as actively as it is happening here in Kenya. Peter Oloma mentioned is part of this, is leading a growing network of players drawn from private sector, from government, through the Social Entrepreneurship Society of Kenya, really putting together a very strong network, to spearhead policy and legal framework discussion. So that is also something that I'm seeing, which then means that there is a kind of acceptance of contribution that this sector is making to country's GDP. There's that awareness, and there is just that acknowledgement that the barriers that social entrepreneurs are experiencing, some of these barriers can be lowered if you have a legal and policy framework. Some of these challenges that they, whether it's funding, whether it's lack of training opportunities, can be addressed when you have legal and policy, proper legal and policy framework in place. So I'd say in terms of when there's more funding opportunities, there is more kind of training opportunities also. So in terms of talent, there is quite a bit of talent that can steer social entrepreneurship the way it's supposed to. And then also, of course, if you look at the whole, innovation, that is happening, that in itself, more and more social entrepreneurs are either leveraging, say, something like technology, so there's an uptake of new ways of either implementing innovations and this kind of stuff. So I'd say across East Africa, we're seeing there is intense development. This kind of a forum, to see that this is happening, you have a huge, number of participants here today. That goes to show you that there is interest and something is happening. We've also seen in the last couple of years, quite, some big names also coming to the scene. We've had Impact Summit, run by Ashoka in partnership with British Council. We've seen so many of these kind of events happening. I think annually, and this question really, Eric, would have needed, to do justice to this question, would have needed me to present you also with some statistics. But I'm happy also to just kind of do a little bit of more research around these areas of development and share with you. We can always share, further with the participants here. But absolutely, there is quite tremendous growth in development in the field of social entrepreneurship in East Africa. Even for us as Ashoka, we see it from the number of people who are interested in applying for the fellowship program. We continuously have this pipeline that we are building, and I want to mention also in this call I've seen Anza Msechu from Anza Consultant Company. That is also for me an indication that there is quite a bit of development happening. I think they're kind of trying to building bridges between ecosystems here and ecosystems in Europe, finding opportunities for investors to pay attention also to social entrepreneurship and then social enterprises. So I hope I've done a bit of justice there, Eric, but I would have loved to present also some statistics to just back up that answer. But I know we'll still circle back and I will provide some more information. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. I've also got some chats here from Peter Olo. Peter Olo says, thanks Vincent for the intro. In Kenya, we have an organized network for social enterprises, which Peter is leading. It is called Social Enterprise. I think there is a website, socialenterprise.org.kenya.ke. So maybe Vincent, you can allies with Peter, and I think Peter also check with you, and also Roderick Sechu says, Vincent, it will be interesting to know if there are Ashoka fellows in Tanzania, and the space is there, and the space is there. Entrepreneurs are effecting change. I think he wants to know if Ashoka has fellows in Tanzania. Can you maybe quickly respond to that, specifically that one?
Yeah, I can
regarding
respond to it.
Ashoka fellows.
We do have Ashoka fellows in Tanzania, Msechu, and Msechu is the one leading the ANZA Strategy Limited. I would say, I know you're asking this out of multiple interests, to see where probably you can also anchor the amazing work that you're doing. So we have, in fact, the latest Ashoka fellow is from Tanzania, and is probably someone that you all know, those who are from Tanzania, Isaiah Yunge. Isaiah is working in the education space. I think he's providing, he has built this platform to connect students with scholarship opportunities. Again, I'm not doing so much justice in explaining his work, but if you check out Isaiah Yunge, it's called Soma App. So quite incredible. I mean, he has registered quite a bit of impact so far. And then also recently, he's one of the fellows we mapped out across the globe for Ashoka, who is actively engaging in finding solutions in some ways around COVID-19. I think he was working with the Tanzania government to kind of bring some of these PPEs and kind of just finding ways to distribute them in a very efficient way. So check out Isaiah. Then we have also Joseph Sekiku, who is in Kagera. Then we have Joseph Sekiku is kind of running a community radio, creating a massive awareness around government opportunities. But he was elected a fellow initially because of the work that he's doing with farmers in that area. Then there is forgetting this guy's name. There is Jambo Bukoba, Clemens Mlokozi. Clemens is Tanzanian German. Clemens Mlokozi, based in German, I think most of the better part, but then a mixed trip to Bukoba quite frequently. So Jambo Bukoba is the initiative. You can check it out. So we do have fellows in Tanzania. Sergio.
Okay. Wow. Thank you so much. I was seeing Khalila here, and I think she left again. So maybe she'll come back soon. Let me go back to Adam again. Thank you so much for the information, Mr. Vincent. I know everybody here is now clear of what Ashoka does and the opportunities around it. And I'll give you more time to share more about Ashoka and the opportunities which are within Ashoka for everybody in the region afterwards. But let me come back to Adam as we're waiting for Khalila. My next thing I would like to know from you, Adam, is since you have been accelerating young social entrepreneurs for a while now, what are the challenges they face in growing their enterprise, and what is your advice to mitigate them? If you have got my question.
Thank you. Yes, there are a couple of challenges that I feel they are faced by the most of our startups. Mainly, I'll categorize them in 3 areas, and I've been singing with them all the time when I do the mentorship or when they ask for a reference. I'll talk to them on those issues. Some of them are so painful. The first one everyone will say is about capital. Yeah, capital. So there is genuinity about that, and there is a rather hype when asking on that question or referencing the capital issue. The genuinity is, yes, for serious startup company, basing on our legal and regulatory issues, sometimes we get difficult to raise funds for scaling up the businesses. And even if we are reaching to the point where, especially when we reach to the point where we are ready to be invested, I'll refer that term as a mezzanine stage. There's very difficulties and a lot of learnings that are happening out there. How can you raise funds, especially to the external investors and all that? There's a lot of chemistry that someone needs to know before going into that. But also we have the challenge around that capital issues of a lot of startups are not ready to raise funds, but they keep asking for funding. The business model itself is not very well clear. He hasn't taken a lot of time to work on his business, but he's going round and round looking for funding. So even if someone will listen at that product, especially, you know, whoever wants to chip or put the investment or the business, want to be assured of that business that he's putting. It's not a play anymore. It's a serious stuff. So most of our startups, I think they are prematurely asking the funding and the source and the type of funding that they're asking. So as a stakeholders, we need to put a lot of effort to make sure that really these businesses that are asking for funding, that mezzanine stage to receive that funding, or at least they have a well infrastructures that allows them to receive the investment. And this could start from even the way we keep our books, the way we have put our system and structures. It shouldn't be like you wait until the business is ripe, then you're asking for cleaning your books and all that. The business should start from day go to start recording, put the proper system and structures, making sure you have proper teams that really will convince investors that this is a business to invest. So these nitty-gritty things are not being invested in the initials of starting that businesses. And by the time they are looking for investment, they find that there are a lot of issues that they need to clear before even asking for that kind of investment. So that's really another issue when it's come to capital issue. There is a missing gap, especially in Tanzanian ecosystem. A lot of startups are looking for the investment around $15,000 US, 20,000 up to the maximum 100K. And these are the investments that are not really, you can't get for the angel investors or venture capital investors. So this missing gap, nobody is looking at supporting them. So we have that issue of the missing gap when the ecosystem is not there to support that side of investment. Another thing, apart from the capital issue, I feel like is a team itself. Basing to our background, we lack key skills that can support a business to prosper, and hence hinders the development of the businesses and startups. So you find even at our level, like now, we are looking for a specific talent. It's hard to get them unless you say you'll have to breed them yourself inside. And by the time they are at the point of being ready for you to reap, someone else is competing on the same talent. So that's another challenge for the small or startup companies to do what we call retention of the talents, because that retention of talents as well needs investment. And even if to get them off the shelf, they are not there, you need to work with them. So skills issue, you know, the World Bank report about skills gap. There is serious skills gap in this country that we need to work on. And if we want to support the startup companies, is to support especially on capacity building and skills, as simple as skills in issues like personal communications and all that. But there is another last one, which I feel is a man-made problem, is there is a hype of being called a CEO, that everyone loves to be called a CEO. And this eating us a lot. I haven't seen Tanzanian startup thinking of merging their efforts and coming up with a bigger, stronger firm that can at least shake the market. You find everyone is working on a tiny, tiny effort that cannot make us go anywhere. So there's a time to start stopping our egos, join hands, so that we create the better companies that can grow. Instead of going myself to be a CEO, like try to be called an CEO and all that. Last, as a bonus to, especially because a lot of startups are here, they should concentrate in building their businesses and not going everywhere. Like you'll see a startup, a CEO or founder every day is traveling. Like, what time are you making your business? I think it's a time to sit down, concentrate on your business, and if need to be travel, if you need to travel, really make sure that it's a travel that makes sense to your business, not to the hype. And this is another thing that we find, everyone is traveling, the business is not growing. Every pitch competition, they are there. The same pitch deck you work with them 6 months ago is the same deck that is going to present in another pitch event, and there's no growth. So what eats me is growth. And if we want to really to growth, let's concentrate and make a business, forget about traveling, and concentrate and make a business. I think I can live with that, at least for now.
Yeah, you have reminded me something. There is this concept which is happening nowadays for startups in Tanzania. I heard it from startups. They say there's these people are called the grantpreneur. I don't know if you have heard about it. Grantpreneur. The young social entrepreneurs who are focusing more into how they can access the grants from different places instead of maybe growing their businesses. And it sounds a challenge as well. Can you say something on this as well?
I have rather a conservative look on that issue. Yes, there's a growing issue of grantpreneur, and it can vividly seen. But one thing for sure, and this is what I've learned from others when speaking on the companies that have grown, some startups which have maybe exit. There is a challenge that we cannot raise enough funding to grow our businesses. And a lot of startup companies will look for grants. And I was talking to a colleague who has sold his company, which recently. He was saying, if you can, please go for that grants. If you can go for grants at the early stage of your business, say post-acceleration stage, go for grants as much as you can. What is the difference with here that people are going for these grants, but they are not growing? I know for sure about 2 to 3 startups that I've seen that I gave them 2 years ago, $6,000. Since then to date, they have got about 3 or 4 times such grants, but they're not growing. The business is still on that prototype. So if it's to go for grants, I think that's the best option to quickly take your business to the next level. but make sure that whatever you get out of that, use that effectively and efficiently. And that is not happening, and where the term grantpreneur comes. But if we could even use it effectively, it makes sense that for early stage startup companies to go for grant on the early stage so that they push for the mezzanine stage to go look for further funding and investment. But we're not doing that.
Wow. Okay. Thank you so much. Someone has commented on what you have mentioned, Imbiao. Placidio says, well explained, Mr. Adam. We need to keep our financial data, the books since day one. Great, Adam. Most startups are asking for funding, but they don't want to raise funds. Cecil says, well, I'm interested with the raise fund speech. Well, I'm okay. So, okay, thank you so much. Adam will come back again. Let me, I'm trying to get on board. Okay, Khalila is in here. Don't know if Khalila will manage now because she was struggling with internet. Let me ask if Khalila can manage to share some views with us before we go to also ask the audience to ask questions. If Khalila, you are there, please share with us what do we need? I mean, why do we need? Okay, no, please tell us who is a social entrepreneur. I just want to hear that because we haven't heard about who is a social entrepreneur from Tanzanian perspective, especially from you, Khalila. Can you share with us about that quickly, please? I know you are struggling with internet, but can you please? I can see you here. Okay, I think she still has some issues. Anyway, we are having Peter Olo, the CEO of Kenya Social Enterprise Kenya. This is lucky that he just came here, and we are interested to hear from him. Thank you so much, Mr. Peter, for showing up here, and this chance has come to you. We would like, first of all, to hear from you of the Social Enterprise Kenya. You can tell us about Social Enterprise Kenya shortly and also introduce yourself so that we know you, and then tell us about the topic, doing business for good in tough times. What is your opinions? You can
yeah, I've unmuted. Yes. Thank you so much, Chris, and the organizers of this amazing afternoon. I'm currently talking from Nairobi, Kenya, and for our good partner Tanzania, we always appreciate the much you do. And I think the discussions about social entrepreneurship is really fitting well with this COVID crisis, because as social entrepreneurs, we look at the crisis as a big opportunity to innovate and see how we can use business to address the problems. But anyway, I'm Peter Olo. I'm the chairman and CEO of Social Enterprise Society of Kenya, which is the umbrella body for people who use business as a vehicle to do good. We were registered in 2017, January, with the government of Kenya as a society. So my journey in social entrepreneurship started sometime around 2015, when, for those who know the iHub is an innovation space in Nairobi. It's a global innovation space known worldwide. So the E4Impact Foundation were looking for ideas on those who have done innovations. So I went and pitched at the iHub. My innovation was about how you can use a mobile application to manage the electrical appliances. I mean, how can you switch off your fridge? How can you be able to reduce the expenditure in terms of your power appliances? So I did a prototype because my background is in computing, and then now I pitched there. So I was one of the best. I was picked by E4Impact Foundation, which is a Milan-based foundation who are running a global MBA in social entrepreneurship. So from there, I did my MBA. Of course, I had already done my MSc in computer science. My background is computing, the first degree and master, and then now the MBA from E4Impact. So all along I was at a key doing stuff, coding, all these kinds that software engineers and computing people do. Because I also ran a company, an IT company in Nairobi. Then after my MBA, for like 18 months doing MBA in social entrepreneurship, that is where now my mindset changed. Because I looked at around me and the problems that have been there, and then I looked at what grants I've done, what NGOs have done, but we still see all these problems existing. So I thought that I think social entrepreneurship, using business as a vehicle to change the environment, to address all these problems we have in Nairobi and all over the world, I thought this is the thing that we need to do. So then I came up with the idea of forming Social Enterprise Society of Kenya. That was around 2016 October, of course, after I graduated. So from that time up to now, I think is a long journey. We have since moved, registering, doing all the necessary, doing our website, recruiting members and all that. And currently we have about 120 social enterprises who are spread across different counties, but mainly the concentration is in Nairobi. So it has not been an easy journey. It has been pains, using your own money, bringing people together, convincing people that yes, be a member of Social Enterprise Society of Kenya, these are the benefits. And remember, you're doing this, you have no funds, you have no money, no budget to market the organization. And as usual, as you know, especially we Africans, we need to be convinced that there's something interesting in what I want to join. So the biggest challenge has been membership recruitment, and even, because the social entrepreneurship I think in the whole of Africa is a new concept. People, if you tell somebody what is a social enterprise, so selling that brand and pushing it out there was the hardest part for me. Of course, I was alone and brought other people. Yeah, but then since that time, for the 3 years now, we have moved, and I think as I speak now, I will consider ourselves a global brand, because actually it's Vincent who invited me to. I was not aware of this event today. I just saw it, and I was even supposed to have another meeting. And I think I'll explain why I decided to join this meeting and leave out the other one. Yeah, so we work with Ashoka very closely. As you know, Ashoka are the fathers of social entrepreneurship. And Ashoka has actually been part of our journey, part of our growth, riding on who they are and building our organization. So all along, we are brought on board British Council, currently supporting us, as Vincent mentioned. We are currently working on the social enterprise policy for Kenya. In Kenya, and I believe even in Tanzania and even across Africa, you can't register a social enterprise, a business as a social enterprise. So we came up with the idea with, bringing all the ecosystem stakeholders together, British Council, Ashoka, Action Aid, all these people that, and I'm sure they're also in Tanzania, AMREF, Africa, Kenya Private Sector Alliance, Thomson Reuters Foundation. So we came together so that we can advocate for the social enterprise policy for Kenya. So already now we have the first draft, and this is being supported by British Council. We have the first draft, which we expect now to move to meet, to have a meeting with the Ministry of Industrialization so that they can own it. Already they are, there's buy-in from the ministry, but then now that is the next stage that we are going. But then along the line also we have built a lot of partnership, joining, being members of the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, which is the apex body for the private sector. So this is these are the things that have helped us grow. So I don't want to bore you with our journey, but I think Crispin and the team who organized this, I wanted to hear if you have an umbrella body for social enterprise in Tanzania, because as I speak we have been thinking, we here meaning Social Enterprise Society of Kenya, Social Enterprise Ethiopia, who are also very, 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 they're very grown and very organized, and then Social Enterprise Ghana. So Ghana started even before us. I think the last time we talked with them, because we know each other and we engage a lot, they were supposed to actually enact the law on social enterprises. So what I'll request is to, if we can have, I can be introduced to the umbrella body for social enterprise in Tanzania, because we are thinking of forming the East African chapter, East African chapter for social enterprise. I know it was there, but I think it went down. And then now moving to the African, forum, having an African forum. I'm saying this because I've been lucky to attend both African and even the global events. You know, I've been to the Social Enterprise World Forum last year in Addis Ababa with Vincent and the rest. And even last year, I went to Paris to attend the global event on social entrepreneurship, Pact for Impact Summit. You know, the French that time were the chair of the G7. So they funded me.
Okay.
They funded me.
Thank you.
So
thank you, Peter. I wanted you to thank you so much for the detailed introduction. If you can use like 1 minute to, I think for the request about how we can make the chapter in Tanzania, then we can discuss that after this forum with us as well. We can discuss further about that. But maybe to finish, can you please share with us your opinion on how social entrepreneurs can some tips on how can run their business in tough times, especially now. Do you have any tips on how they can maybe do their business for them to become successful in these tough times? Some few ideas you have?
Oh yes, yeah, that's fine, Crispin. Now, I'll use an example of an ostrich and an albatross. If some of I'm sure many of us know this, an analogy. Now, an ostrich always keeps the head inside the sand, whether the world is burning, whether there's something coming to hit the ostrich. But an albatross is also a bird. An albatross is like an eagle. You know, they fly up there. You know, the eagle flies up there and then take the opportunity and strike and get the food. But the ostrich, whether there's noise, whether there's wars, will always dip their head inside the sand. I'm using this analogy because look at the current crisis that we have under, COVID. So I'll share with you what, like me, I've been doing, and even some of our members. As social entrepreneurs, we are not taking COVID as the end of the world or anything. To me, I think COVID came at the right time. And I want to quote. I attended a global webinar whereby Professor Muhammad Yunus was one, who is a Rashoka fellow. We're talking about is COVID-19 an opportunity or a calamity? And Professor Muhammad Yunus was telling us that I think the world had reached a tipping point. It's like you have reached a cliff, and what the last point now is to jump into the ocean with crocodiles and everything. So according to me, also, I think I agree with Professor Muhammad that this COVID thing for social entrepreneurs is to how do you come up with the innovations around these problems that are there. Because social entrepreneurship is about addressing world problems using business. So if COVID, the way COVID is and the way it has structured itself is a social entrepreneur is to use at the challenges, come up with the innovation towards those challenges, and that is where the billions lie. Because these millionaires, and we know them, from Microsoft to these people, they solve a problem. And because of solving a problem, that is why now they are making money. So I think COVID is a big opportunity for us social entrepreneurs. For example, look at like in Kenya, we have a big slum called Kibera. And many women, children are now going without food. And we have one of our members, who is actually manufacturing food and distributing these people to the people who are lucky.
If you can make it even shorter. Thank you.
Yeah. So for us, I think COVID is a crisis that we can innovate around, and then we use our business to address the problems under COVID. Thank you, Chris. Wow. And sorry for taking too long.
No, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think for the sake of time, because I have Peter, I have Adam, I have Vincent. Kalila has failed because of the internet. Let me take this chance now to allow the participants as well to ask some questions which will help us to respond more and speak more of the topic from the panelists. So at this point of time, let me allow, you can raise hand and then I can allow you to ask your question, or you can ask a question from the chat box as well. from the audience, and our panelists are there to respond. Karibu sana washiriki. And as we are waiting for people to ask questions, okay, there is one attendee here who has risen 9. Okay, these people have raised their hands, I think. Okay, Mohamed Basanga. Mohamed Basanga has the question to ask. Please, Mohamed. Karibu.
I have a question to ask you for Kenyans about social entrepreneurship in Kenya. How does their country just respond about this social entrepreneurship? Because we are just seeing like Tanzania, social entrepreneurship is just a new thing. So what about Kenya? Government, they just support, they just know about social entrepreneurship?
Okay, so this question can maybe go to Vincent, because Peter has been speaking just before you ask this question. Maybe let this question be responded by Vincent. Okay, how about entrepreneurship and government in Kenya?
Yeah, I think I would speak just from a very wide outlook. So the struggles regarding social entrepreneurship, how government relate with social entrepreneurs or social enterprises, I think is similar, almost across Africa and better part of the world. There isn't much acknowledgement of what exactly is a social enterprise. One, because, or rather the acknowledgement is there, but where to situate social enterprises is still a challenge. For instance, when you're discussing the need to have a policy and a legal framework, question always will be, is this a business or not a business? So if it is a business, why do you want to have a totally different legal regime or policy regime? Why can't it just operate within the trade instruments that are available in a country? And I think that is one struggle that the government is always experiencing. And then also, if you say it is an NGO, I mean, technically it is because it's not a government organization, but if you want to, you have a revenue stream. So the complications around where do we, what is unique about social enterprises that they cannot be qualified as normal enterprises. And they can also not be qualified as typical NGOs, and even though you'll find some are registered as NGOs and companies limited by guarantees. So that struggle is there. So that unique distinction is something that social enterprises must cultivate. And maybe at this point, Crispin, so just to answer, it's the same thing. And I think Peter also was alluding to that, it's been a journey, really trying to get this policy and legal framework. It's a journey, not there yet, but at least there's a draft. We don't know how long that will take. But having said that also, Crispin, I think, Eric, they just need to also make a distinction. When I was talking about Ashoka and talking about social entrepreneurship, you will notice that we make reference of the individual, not the enterprise. It's not the entity. And that is for very good reasons, because when you get to into the weeds of discussing, of finances and funding, to that very deep level, the fear is that then the whole notion of why a social enterprise will be lost, because the drive for social entrepreneurs is not around profit. It is to create change, to address a challenge, to address a problem in their communities, and of course to scale that innovation. Of course, that will need funding, but we see this happening a lot. In fact, in the recent past, there's just been it's like a fad, almost kind of just interchanging them. And I know from amongst these participants, you find people like Matthew Mbuvi, who's working with the prison department. And the thinking for him is basically, how do we transform this? And that is social entrepreneurship. So I kind of felt it's important to make that distinction so that as we approach it, and that's the reason for Ashoka to identify and support individuals rather than the enterprise. Because we believe when you support this individual who is applying entrepreneurial thinking to creatively innovate and solve a problem, when that problem is solved, they will move with their skills, with a set of skills, with that orientation of doing good for the common good of all, into another space. They will move into another space. So it's not so much about the enterprise, but the individual. Just making that distinction because I got the opportunity. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. Another question goes to Adam from Tobiko. Tobiko says, Adam, I know you are there.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Cool. So Tobiko asking a question that joining hand for making bigger firm is good, but how can we join if we differ in a problem we are solving off if we are in different sector? So that's his question. I think you mentioned about joining hands to make bigger firms and strong firms. So he's asking, is something good, but how if we can join, if we define problem we are solving off, or if we are in different sector? I don't know if you have got the question, and maybe you can respond. Yeah.
Thank you. So the joining hands concept is in two ways in my views. The first one is when building your team, you have to look for potentials for people that will make your business grow. The problem is people want to build their team themselves. They don't want to consider other talent within. So to bring them on board, at least to do something that can be strong and stable. So that's one context of it. Like you see someone who is, people who are making these startups, they all are tech gigs and they have started a startup company. They need other talents like finance. They need another talent, maybe people of marketing. And we have good minds there who are good at that area. I've just mentioned I'm a co-founder for Sahara Ventures, and Sahara Ventures has 3 companies. I'm not a founding member of Sahara Sparks, neither a director, but I'm a member of the other 2 companies, Sahara Accelerator and Sahara Consulting. I joined a bit later while these guys started their initiative. They saw something that they feel I can add something on the table. This is why they reach out to me, and I sit down and analyze, and I understood what they are looking at, and I feel this is something I can work with them to push this the company together. And this is where we started with the group side Ventures Sahara together. So if Jumanne and other colleagues who started Sahara Sparks didn't want to take other talents to help them push this company, I wouldn't have been in this position that I'm speaking at now. As well, could it be Sahara would have lost a specific talent that the rest of the team didn't have? We need to have this mindset of pushing or pulling people with the talents that we don't have and allow them to be on the team. So to make this company or our startup companies grow. The thing is, people don't open the doors on the establishment that they've made. They just want to go themselves. But you find that they can't pay a talent. They never even don't allow other talent to come in, share, and work out together on that mission that they're looking at. So that's one way of looking at it. But as well, I was talking to a fellow in Nairobi one time. I forgot his name. Very big fellow on the ecosystem. Why do I forget his name? And he told me, like, look, if I analyze between Tanzania and Kenya, for example, there are very good Tanzanian innovators, say for the case of innovators, around hardwares and products. And there are very good innovators in Kenya on software bit. But normally, if you keenly investigate them, they have some synergies out of those two things. If one day these people will realize and join hands between the two sister companies, sister brothers, I mean these sister fellows between the two countries, and merge their force, you will find that the company that will be built there will have already an existence in Tanzania as well as in Kenya, say, for example. So you make this merging much stronger, more wide and diverse. So when I say merging in terms of startup, in this case, I mean, look at the company that you have the same synergy, same efforts. Instead of starting a company with the delivery of food and there's another food vendor that is struggling, ask if you can join hands and merge these two initiatives to make a bigger initiative that at least can collect that strength to move forward. So this is what I'm saying.
Okay. Wow. Thank you so much. I have another question for you, Adam. You reserve it and you respond later. On this question, you went to Vincent before on the relationship between government and social entrepreneurs development in Tanzania. If you talk about it later on, I will give you a chance, but prepare for that. I have a question from the audience to you, Vincent, from Philip Dewey. He's asking if you can share 3 or 4 critical points that the startup impact business should focus on. This is for you, Vincent, from Philip Dewey. I think, Vincent, you're hearing me. Vincent, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry.
Yes. So Philip Dewey is asking if you can share 3 or 4 critical points that the startup impact business should focus on. And I know, Emmanuel, you have raised your hand. I will allow you to ask a question after Vincent.
Okay. Thank you. That's really a good question, Philip. So for any, again, I'm drawing from the experience we have as Ashoka. The first thing, obviously, is if you're thinking beyond just making like a typical social enterprise, you're thinking profit and a few other kind of low-level stuff, direct service. If you're thinking beyond direct service, let me not call them low-level, but if you're thinking beyond direct service to system change, then the first thing you have to think about is the newness of your idea. Of course, before you think about the newness of how innovative the idea is, you have to be very clear on what challenge or what problem do you want to solve. I see, and I talk to so many people who confidently say they are social entrepreneurs, but sometimes, and this is something that probably will need a little bit more of investigation and research. Can you be just like an entrepreneur, typical business entrepreneur, but running an enterprise for doing business for good element? But I think the first thing is, what is that challenge that you really want to address? You have to be very clear when you think of yourself as a social entrepreneur, a startup within that sort of framework of understanding. Then the second thing is the newness. What is the unique thing that you're bringing? What's so new about this? Again, that will not only help you in carving out opportunities to collaborate with other people to accelerate that, but also when you're thinking of competitive advantage. I mean, if you think of now opportunities for funding and even talent and all those kind of things, you want to have that very distinct new thing that you're bringing on board. And I think that is where innovation with all different elements of it come into play. So it has to be new. Then the other thing is you have to think of your end game. I think this is also true that Not everyone, starts with a business model in place or thinking, even being aware of what the business model is all about. But having at the back of your mind what the end game is all about, I think it's critical. What is your scaling plan? Because Philip, you asked for the 3, I will stick to the 3. And it's so I just need to mention this. I mean, we do have all these social entrepreneurs as Ashoka Fellows, elected as Ashoka Fellows. And it is not strange to hear them not knowing, not being very conversant with, business model canvassing or having figured out their kind of like a business model to their venture. But you can always pick from the way they articulate what they want to see at the end of it all, that it's very clear. So maybe just like a more kind of like a structured, academic driven framework orientation is what they lack, but they do have it nonetheless. So think about that challenge. Like, why do you really want to address it? Is it something that you're so passionate about? If you are moved from, like, you will not stop at anything, you will stop at nothing to work on that solution. The second thing is the newness of it all, how innovative, thinking of the whole spectrum of what innovation is all about. And the end game, think about the end game. I would say those 3, see a lot of entrepreneurs who are successful will tell you from the word go, those are the things that, whether they knew them clearly, they figured them clearly or not, but somehow, you will hear their, what are the elements, what are the different pieces that they were putting in place, even in terms of just thought process. Philip, I hope that answers your question.
Wow, thank you so much. So let me now allow Emmanuel Nolo to ask his question.
Thank you,
Emmanuel.
Yeah, I think you can hear me now.
Yes, sure.
Thank you. All the panelists have spoken well on the topic that we have today, but I think we have one challenge here. Good ideas have been developed. Apart from good ideas, people have taken steps of starting new startups. I think the challenge here is, how do we fund these startups? How do we unite in pursuit and searching of funds to run these startups? If you can hear from everyone who has spoken, that he went through a lot of struggle to achieve or to reach somewhere where he is. But are we aware of the people who failed to stand up due to missing or lacking of these funds? So we might have lost the great and big ideas that could have changed our society because we failed to link or to help startups on how they can be funded. So the challenge that we have in hand here is how to take that focal point, the turning point that will blow the whole society, is how to fund these ideas. Should everyone struggle? Should everyone take 6 to 10 years trying to find fund to implement his idea? Should someone go far from Africa, from Kenya to, let's say, to Dubai or to US to participate on an exhibition that if you win this, you will get this fund? But do we have the means or the ways on how we can connect the startups to funds that they can implement easily their ideas? That's what my concern is. Thank you.
Okay. Where do you want this question to go, or to
actually this
everyone?
I'm not getting anyone. Actually, even you can respond on it or any other, but I'm stressing, should everyone struggle to access
Can I give it a
funds?
stab?
Yes.
Sorry, Vincent, before you continue, can Emmanuel please tell us where you're from? I think it's also important to know if you're from Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda.
Yes,
or...
Thank you. I'm from Tanzania, and
Okay.
yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. I think Vincent, you wanted to respond to this, please.
Yeah, Emmanuel, that's really a good question. It's the same thing. I mean, even outside this conversation, I mean, we always wonder, must one take so long to get to where they want to get. Of course, different contexts with different challenges and different opportunities. And I think for Africa, I think it's probably triple jeopardy for us. One, this whole notion of social entrepreneurship is still new, even globally. So the fact that it's a very nascent sort of field, it means we still don't have like adequate infrastructure for startups to be supported from the word go. Then secondly is the other barriers that are common. We say let's say funding, for instance. In other geographies in the northern world, the Western world, there is sort of big support. Like everyone is keen on supporting new ideas, right? So that is there. We don't have it here. And I can kind of just broaden it to say the understanding of what philanthropy is not, or investment is not at the level that it is in other countries, the Western countries. For instance, just to explain it, you will find in Africa setting, every other weekend, there could be a fundraiser to support someone with their wedding, or to go to school, high school or university, or even a burial. So there is that communal support, but this does not translate when it comes to innovative ideas. You don't see that level of, okay, we need to support this. So for me, it's and that's why I was interested in answering this question. I'm most feeling like there's a disconnect. I don't know whether it's it is the understanding of the concept of investment, in comparison to just supporting for these other social causes. So for me, I think there is just something that we need to do as Africans around that. But then also there is the onus, the responsibility to prove like this is something that is worthy to be invested on is on the innovator. So one thing is, if you are not leveraging your entrepreneurial spirit to tackle the root cause of a social issue and thinking of how you're going to do it at scale, then you're not going to have so many people interested in investing in it. There's more interest in innovation that are seen that they have the potential to effect system level change. Like I said, we've seen this with many social entrepreneurs already, and it is upon us to encourage upcoming startups to be thinking how to kind of just to inspire them to start very successful business models, but also that are creating this kind of systemic change. If you look at and I know, I would say this is the reason why we definitely need social entrepreneurs in the region, because whatever industry they focus on, what they do, and this should speak to anyone who's like in a startup, you should seek to transform the existing systems and with solutions that are strong enough to establish new standards. I think when people see this kind of thing, I think there is an attraction from investors, because that's what people want to see. People want to really identify with something that is bringing about change for the common good of all. So I think that's how I would look at it.
Okay, thank you so much. I think this question, Adam, you can also respond in it shortly, but I want now you, Adam, you have a work here. I want you can share something on this question specifically, but I want you to talk about the question I asked you before about the government, Tanzanian government versus social entrepreneurship development in the country. And also Henry Kazula has a question which is likely the same. He's asking to you, Adam, how can we promote social entrepreneurship to be adopted in various institutions? It is the right thing. Is it the right thing? Does our efforts enough to challenge the status quo? Let me repeat this question from Henry Kazua to you, Adam. How can we promote social enterprise or entrepreneurship to be adopted in various institutions, I think in Tanzania now, is it the right thing? Does our efforts enough to challenge the status quo? And then you remember, this guy here asked about funding social enterprise being a challenge, and whether it is a need for social entrepreneurs for the systems to focus on that. But again, my question on the government versus social entrepreneurship in Tanzania.
That's the tough one, especially when it comes to the government and the social entrepreneurship. You all know that normally on registration of companies, we had two types of companies. We had the companies which were not-for-profit company, and we had companies which were for-profit limited by shareholder. The other one was limited by guarantor. And there is a circular within that now. The company which not limited by guarantor has been stopped as a registration at the moment. And our aim and thoughts were to see or press the government to use that line of the company that governed by shareholders or trustees, at least to use that channel to start pushing the agenda of social enterprise. And the fact that that is being locked is kind of another mile to go, at least on my views. But as well, our efforts over the last 5 years has given me at least 2 lessons that it makes me optimistic. The first one is, for the last 5 years as a company with Sahara Ventures, we have been pushing the ecosystem development, championing innovation, technology, and entrepreneurship ecosystem development. And when we started, we used our event platform, Sahara Sparks, as the area to push the agenda. And we have been pushing a lot of theme every year that together they have massively changed the way the stakeholders view the ecosystem. I'll give you the example. For example, last year, we held our Sahara Sparks event, and with the main topic of discussing the topic around digital economy. And we had a high-level workshop at Serena here in Dar, and different other levels at Mlimani City event over 1 week. You might have you remember them, those topics. Now, we were compiling what have been the learnings out of the last year's Sahara Sparks. We have noticed that the government now is on the board preparing for, we come to understand that they are preparing a digital economy policy. And several high-level meetings have followed ever since we pushed the agenda from the one that we did in Sahara Sparks last year. What does this tell us? I think we need to push more, and we can't just push by not involving these high-level officials and stakeholders on the table of this discussion. So one of the tools that we can use is, I feel high-level discussion workshop for them to understand this concept, because sometimes these guys are you know, they are at the deepest point of making policies. They have been bombarded by different school of thoughts on how things should go. So they have a lot that sometimes they even don't understand what are you talking about. So I feel it's a time now to start pushing them to be part of these conversations, to start to understand what are we talking about, and how we can prosper together, take this social entrepreneurship and solve its impediment in terms of legal and regulatory issues. So that's one way of at least pushing it. I've seen Kenyan side, they look very organized in terms of they have their associations. They are sharing a lot on that end and front. And it looks like this is another thing I feel that needed for Tanzanian side, for sharing, learning, exchanging ideas and supporting each other, as well as pushing, lobbying and advocacy for the agenda. So the unity is another thing that I feel that we need to push. We don't need a status quo. We need to, sometimes we need to start showcasing that this is how we can do. The policy will come follow us. And this is very vivid in our ecosystem, in Tanzanian sector, for example. The mobile money development in Tanzania started even before the policy. The policy came 5 years later. But people with the vigor to see this push, they started pushing the agenda, regardless that the policy is not there. Let us mistake, but let us show them these are the people wanted to see this happening. The policymaker will follow back. So we shouldn't be stopped by the policy or legal regulatory issues. Rather, let us start and move. They will come and join us on the rein. And that's has been a usual way the policymakers do. They run after the effort has been pushed on the board. We can't wait for the policy, legal and regulatory issues to start, then we start our effort. Let's just move and go. They will join us.
Okay. There is Adam. Before you leave, someone asked he wanted you to mention something. Adam, could you speak about TSA and how you are building the network to change policy? I don't know if you know this TSA, Adam.
Yes, I know a bit about, TSA. I was the founding member of the TSA, but I'm not the board member of TSA. TSA is Tanzania Startup Association, recently started, but the discussion has been taking, I'll say 1 year and a half back. We have been going up, down, and back and forth to try to start this in a verge of the same thinking that we can't be heard. We can't be talking these things without having a seat on the table. We need to find a way that will have a seat on the table. And the movement is started by pushing the Tanzania Private Sector Foundation to provide us a seat. But ultimately we came to learn that Tanzania Private Sector Foundation has 7 clusters. And none of them were talking about startup issues. And they told us, like, how can we bring you in while you are not part of our clusters as per our policy, our memorandum. So the best way, if you want to start your association, then request for additional cluster within Tanzania Private Sector Foundation. And it is with this time we say, okay, we need to sit down and start something which will have a seat on the table. Nobody can listen to us if we don't have a seat on the table. And I'll tell you for a fact, ever since we announced the establishment of TSA, already we have secured almost 5 to 6 high-profile seats with the high-level ministries and government stakeholders and other stakeholders, including the international organs. We have got a seat with the Ministry of Trade. We have got a seat with some of the permanent secretaries. Some of the United Nations organization has already inquiring about it, and they are listening to us at Tanzania Startup Association. So it is very well proving that if we push ourselves and collect our effort together, we can get a seat. nobody will give us a seat on the table if we can't join our hands together. And unfortunately, I'm not part of the board of the directors of the organ, but I'm a founding member. So I know I championed its establishment. But at the moment already we have an executive secretariat that is starting running. We already have an interim CEO, and they are doing, I don't want to be their spokesman around that area. But yes, the agenda or the thinking behind why we pushed for the establishment of TSA, for me at least, was to make sure that, because we were bouncing, the government can't hear Sahara Ventures as an entity, or TrueMaisha as an entity. They need to hear the voice of the people joining and pushing for that agenda, and they will call us. We didn't believe so, but when we pushed and managed to establish this TSA thing, we have got right on the way the Tanzania startup was, I mean, the city to the table. Already 2 parties have called us to participate on their party manifest. What does it mean? We'll put our agenda through that line on their party manifest. As experience in Tanzanian side has been, if you manage to push your agenda on a party manifest, when that party got elected, it is becoming a mandate to make sure that promise that was put on the manifest is delivered. And this is another way of pushing the agenda. So if at all within a member got a chance to rub shoulder with this high-level organization personnel, especially on the party side, let's push that to go on the party's manifest, to push for the agenda so that they understand and put on their manifest, so that when comes next year, if that party pass through, it will be easy to hold them accountable because it's part of their manifest that they promised to the people. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. So we are going to an end at least, but we are having here, we are having the president of Social Enterprise Forum Africa from South Africa. I'll give him some time at the end to give his remarks. So I think he should just be getting ready. But before we go to an end, there is one question, and then I will ask every panelist to share your views before we invite Mr. Vincent from South Africa. Let me allow Godfrey Machemba to ask the last question, and then after that, I will allow panelists to share last opinions, and then I'll give a chance for the president for Social Enterprise Africa to give the final remark. Please, Godfrey.
Thank you. Actually, to my side, it's not a question, but I have something to add about the last question about how the government and community going to support these social enterprises, especially these startup ones. To my side, I think government and every other peoples and also institutions have been tried to a best to make sure that they support different ideas that have been established by young people. But the problem is there is, I think, 3 things which makes a lot of startups, angels, ideas and everything like that to fail, not because of lack of the support, but the flow from the starting point to the point where they will be able to get support, for example, fund. Okay, and those processes are like the first one, which is the reason why are they doing what they are doing. You see, for example, when we say about social enterprises, okay, like the first thing to do is to find where the opportunity is, and the opportunities is what the problem, where the problem is, and how are we going to solve that problem. You see, that is how we get the idea. That is how a lot of people are used to get the idea of establishing these social enterprises. But when you stay with them and feel like and express and you try to hear about why are they doing that, you will find out there is a lot of problem within. For example, a lot of young people right now, they are establishing these social enterprises not because they really want to solve the problem, but because of the lack of employment in their community. So they think like, okay, so what the problem do I have in my community? For example, gender-based violence. So let me solve that. And in order to get that, I'll just have to get a fund. Another thing is ideology. In ideology is like ideology about who is the person to provide fund. A lot of us believe that these big institutions are the ones who are supposed to give us fund. But to my side, I think like when you talk about fund, it's like, okay, so for example, you have a problem. First of all, your ideology is supposed to be not because there is this problem I want to solve, so I have to get fund first to solve that problem. When you realize there is a certain problem, what you have to do first, you have to make sure, how am I going to get to solve that problem in community myself without having maybe a fund from USAID or the fund from, I mean, big institutions, you see? And that will enable you to find a very easy way for you to solve that problem, not even without a fund, and you'll be able to succeed without a fund. And that ideology of who is the person to provide a fund supposed to change. For example, there is one person who said even your own community can provide a fund, because for example, in our African countries, African communities, we used to fund different ceremonies, like for example, wedding and something like that. So we have to change that ideology. We have to make sure that even our own community can provide fund to us, you see? The third thing is the process. So here is one among of the place where a lot of young people, they might succeed all those two things above, but they will fail in this one, the process. Okay, the process, how? Like, let me be honest. If someone decides to fund you, that means that person invests a lot of money to you and believe in you, and succeed. That money will bring fruits. For example, changes that you think might happen because of your ideas. So it is impossible for someone to give you fund without understanding what the idea is. So a lot of young people, yes, we have idea, but that idea, like, the process of making that idea to be clear, to be well understood, and to be in a way of being in action, there is where we fail, because we get tired of, maybe for example, institution told you like you have to bring maybe your budget. If your budget is not well understood, then they will need more information. So process like that, a lot of young people get tired in the middle, and at the end of the day, they just decided to quit. And why they quit? Because from the beginning, they didn't know the reason why are they doing that, what they are doing. You see? So I will like if we started to change the ideology of young people. Like, I mean, a lot of people in our community who want to start these social enterprises. The aim of starting social enterprises is to make sure that we solve different problems that happen in our community. And you can't have a social enterprises without even having a fund from anyone, you see? Because solving a problem, it doesn't need a money. You can create a lot of way that can solve a problem without having a fund, you see? Like a fund from big institutions, but also we have to start with their own community. So those three things, I think they will work better.
Wow, thank you so much for the contribution. Now I can see here there are some food for thoughts articles which has been shared by Vincent in the chat box. The links are there. You can click there and you can learn more from those links. Thank you so much, Vincent, for that. And also, someone said, okay, wonderful. Yeah, I think now let me allow the panelists to share your very final comments on our discussions today, especially around this topic of social entrepreneurship, doing business for good in tough times, and whatever you would like to insist as your last opinion for today, before I welcome the President for Social Enterprise Africa to give us the final remark. We can start maybe with Vincent, and then Adam, and then very brief Peter, if you are still there, and then I'll welcome Vincent. Vincent as well.
Okay. Thank you so much, Eric, and thank you for very good moderation and all the inputs. I think there's a lot that I've learned from this conversation today. There's a lot of takeaway for me, even at a very personal level. But it's something that I want to reinforce. Adam had spoken about this earlier. You had asked a question whether, thinking about this in relation to companies, is it CSR? And Adam said, no, it's not. So I just want to quote from a survey that showed that about, surveyed about 34,000 people. 56% of them say that capitalism, as it exists today, does more harm than good. And I think we all agree to that. 87% interviewees in that survey believe that servicing the interests of all stakeholders, not only shareholders, is critical to a company's long-term success. And there's a reason why I'm mentioning all this. I'll wrap it up at the end. The workforce also currently is demanding for a bigger purpose. So about 60% of millennials in that survey said it's a sense of purpose. Like sense of purpose is a great part of the reason they choose, to be where they are in terms of employment. Meaning that employees want to participate personally in meaningful initiatives. So my parting shot is this: I think as social enterprises and as social entrepreneurs, it's very important for us to ensure that we don't fall into that trap. We have to, the trap that capitalism has had like so many companies into. Social enterprises and social entrepreneurs must be at the forefront of pushing for companies also to reinvent their core business by integrating social and environmental solutions, like solutions generally, in their core business. And so if that is the case, then social enterprises should be demonstrating it naturally. So mine is just to kind of just emphasize on the need for anyone who does identify as a social entrepreneur to really think through it in terms of the impact that you want to see, and also kind of be very intentional in moving from direct service and start thinking solutions that will effect a system-wide change, such that your innovation can be replicated in different places, in different areas, in different geographies, where a particular system wants to change. So that's my last one. Thank you so much for listening to me, and thank you, Eric, for giving me the opportunity. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Let me welcome Adam Yao. Yeah.
First of all, I want to thank you for providing me this opportunity to share my 2 cents with the rest of the panelists today. I'm so much than honored. And yes, I've been watching the comments and the participants here. It's a very good, vibrant team that have joined the conversation. I just want to leave you with one note. Let's continue pushing this vibrancy. Let's push this fire burning. The government is in any way will not stop following what people want. It's all upon us to push for that. They will ultimately hear us, they will ultimately understand us, and they will join and provide conducive environment for the social entrepreneurship to strive. Let's continue push this burning. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Adam. Is Peter around? Peter? Okay, I think he has left maybe. Okay, so let me welcome now Mr. Vincent. Thank you so much, Mr. Vincent. You are so much welcome. We are happy that you are here with us. I'd like to welcome you and ask you to please introduce and share with us about Social Enterprise Africa.
Thank you very much, and especially for having me. Peter invited me to be part of this, and I can't thank you and Peter enough for the opportunity. I'm Vincent Zulu. Last year, we held our first Social Enterprise Forum on Africa in Durban, South Africa, just to share ideas in terms of how do we take social enterprise forward. We have identified in my other life as a government official that for any to be able to make any change or positive impact or to be listened to, one needs to have an organization or be organized, and then it becomes easier for other stakeholders to engage. So the purpose last year when we organized the Social Enterprise Forum on Africa in Durban was to have a platform where people would share ideas and where do we want to see a social enterprise in South Africa, especially so because what then happens is most people would associate social enterprise with your CIS budgets, once-off interventions, which it is not. And we decided on the name for the conference to say on Africa because we wanted to learn, because from my own observations was that social enterprise is quite big and advanced in East Africa and other parts of the continent. So we wanted to learn from our counterparts in the rest of Africa. And we had the pleasure of hosting Mr. Peter Olo in that particular conference. We were hoping to hold one this year. Unfortunately, because of COVID, it will have to be visual. But coming back to today's event, my takeaways from the panel is that sustainability and solving a real problem. It's well and good to evangelize social entrepreneurship or trying to solve a particular problem, but it has to be a real problem that people are facing. And if you are adding value, people will find it useful and you are able to build it. And you don't have to start with having lots of money. It's about showing what value you add, and then the rest follows, obviously, if you persevere. And even if you don't start with complicated, what others could call complicated model, minimum viable product, or your business model canvas, passion, solving a real problem, adding value, what will take one farm. And I also liked the emphasis on working together, forming so that to have a stronger voice and learning from each other, and to get a seat on the table, one needs to be an organized group. And as I've alluded previously, from my experience working in government, if one entrepreneur or enterprise approach for one will not be able to actually intervene as a government official or as a government institution. But if one gets an approach from an association or a forum or an industry body, it becomes easier. And then resources can therefore be able to be extended, and there can be a lot of learning and sharing experiences there too. And my own contribution with that, innovation will be the key, because for me, you will find in certain industries will be a bit difficult with established big players. However, if one uses the latest technologies or platform type of businesses, one is able to compete with the bigger guys, and one is able to actually develop solutions that are scalable. For me, is to not just look, having traveled, I had a pleasure of coming to East Africa. It was Tanzania, and as well as Kenya 2 years back. I discovered the problems that people face are almost the same. If you look at bigger problems, humanity problems, they are the same across the world in actual fact. So it's about looking at how one develop it, learn from other experiences, and look at how can it be scalable to solve solutions in other environments, obviously tailoring it to the local environments. Thank you very much. I learned a lot being part of this engagement. Thank you very much.
Eric, you're muted. We can't hear you.
We can't hear you, Eric.
Oh, you can't hear me? Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Thank you. So thank you so much, Vincent, for joining us from South Africa. I think we shall have more conversation regarding social entrepreneurship development in Africa, and especially on our side in Eastern Africa and Tanzania specifically through our Tanzania Social Entrepreneurship Forum and Ashoka, and we had also Social Enterprise Kenya today. So this is a very good synergy to advocate for the social enterprise approach in the region. So thank you so much for joining us. It is our pleasure having you here. Also, thank you so much for the panelists, Vincent, for your contributions, and Adam as well. Thank you so much. And also, I'm sorry that Khalila from Africa couldn't make it because of the Mr. Zach. I had an excuse today because of some other engagements. We didn't manage to have him here, but I'm sure we have benefited a lot from this event, and our aim was the same, to promote social entrepreneurship in our region from our side, Tanzania, because we think this approach is working, and it's very important, especially at this point of tough times in running businesses, social enterprises and enterprises. It is very important to discuss this aspect. I think we shall have more other events to be communicated to you next, and I believe we are going to join again with you in the next events. Thank you so much for the audience, for everyone who has been participating, for those who asked questions in chat box, and those who asked live. Thank you so much for participating, and we are looking forward to have you again in the next events. Otherwise, I wish you a very good evening. Thank you so much, and bye.
Thank you, Eric. Good work.